Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Assistant Director with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is basketball officiating training tape number 2. Good start to the season so far. We've had just a few things come up, nothing too crazy or major, so that's good. We're getting on top of the basics, working through some of the early season anxieties and those kinds of pieces that we see. So really good there. Keep up the good work. Keep up our solid communication and make sure that we are verifying that we're eligible with the schools. That will be really helpful as we move forward. So again, when we're looking at these plays, not picking on any one official, crew, player, or team, just trying to learn from these plays and these situations, and how do we apply the rules, mechanics, philosophies, pull them all together to be successful each game. So keep that in mind when we're looking at these plays. So with that, let's look at some plays. This first play is really philosophy based. There's some rules pieces to it, but mainly philosophy. But I'll start with our front court positioning. We're in really good position here to officiate this play, and we're going to have a drive down the lane line with a blocking foul called by the lead, which I believe is correct. Um, but this is where the philosophy piece comes in. Whenever possible, when we have a foul on a play situation like this with a dribble drive, we should be trying to give this shooter free throws. Um, if the contact is after they've gathered the basketball, we need to allow them continuation and allow them the attempt um, at the basket and give them 2 shots. Otherwise, we're giving the defense what they want. They committed a foul and they're getting a throw in instead of free throws. In this case, I believe that number 25 has gathered the basketball at the time that contact has been made, and we should be giving free throws on this particular play. Now, if we think the contact is out further and that merits a foul, that's fine, but that should come from trail because remember the free throw half circle, that area as a primary falls to the trail. So if we think that the contact occurs here in that space, then definitely we would not have shots. We would have a throw in on the end line at one of the tick marks, and that's how we would handle it. And we'd leave the shot clock the way it is. In this case, the trail chooses to not call a foul, which is fine. Um, we let the dribbler get past the defender, and then there's some body contact where the defender does not have legal guardian position. And again, I believe it is after the dribbler has gathered the basketball, so we should be giving 2 shots. And just from a philosophy standpoint, um, on the same topic, if we have a ball that's dumped in the paint and we do a shot fake and the defensive player tackles the shooter, we need to give them shots there too. Just because they never actually released the ball for a shot doesn't mean that they weren't trying to make a try for goal. And again, by giving a throw in that situation, we'd be giving the defense what they want. So, just from a philosophy standpoint, anytime possible, give them shots. If it's for sure 100% prior to them gathering the basketball, then we'll have a throw in. But otherwise, if we're 50-50, not sure, or for sure after they've gathered the basketball, we should be giving them shots in a situation like this one. Okay, and this one will have a deflection that is not going to be controlled by the defense. The offense gets it back, and then we're going to have a held ball. So I'll start there. First of all, in good position to rule on this action. do a nice job of allowing it to play out and then signaling the held ball. Um, Couple things, close on the players here, because if we get into a closer physical proximity to them, they're less likely to do stuff after the whistle. They don't hear, that's great, but we should close on the dead ball action, clear the players, and then we can go to the table, to the arrow, to figure out who should get the ball. And then make sure we continue to face the court, and then we can figure out what we're going to do with the ensuing throw-in. In this case, the crew has a conversation to determine the throw-in location, and as per rule, with a held ball, we're going to put it on one of the 4 tick marks. In this case, they determine it should be on the end line. That's probably fine. It's close. Remember, we draw a line from the elbow down to the 3-point line, and anything beneath that is going to be on the end line. Anything above that is going to be on the sideline at the 28-foot mark. They determine it's on the end line. That's fine. It's close. But just remember, that's how we determine where to put that ensuing throw in. And then the shot clock is going to remain the same because it is staying with the offense, so we'll leave it at 4 seconds. So overall, really well handled, and just a reminder on the throw-in location for held balls. This play sequence is really well officiated. We have a shot attempt. We all stay put and officiate. We don't bail. The center stays back to help off of the rebound, and we're in really good position throughout this play, and we don't let ourselves get flustered, and then we're going to pick up the foul correctly in the backcourt, and then have the throw in here. So again, nice job not bailing here on this shot. We don't anticipate anything, stay in really good position to view this. And then you see number 4 commits a pretty silly foul after basically playing pretty good defense for 7 seconds of the backcourt count, which started appropriately. And had they just played defense for a couple more seconds, they would have gotten a 10-second backcourt violation. But instead, they got called for a foul, rightfully so. Good job again of the center not bailing, staying put to assist the trail with officiating in the backcourt. And then the other pieces I like about this, closing on the dead ball action. We just talked about that in the previous play, to clear players before moving on with the next play. And then the uh, new lead comes down to take the throw in as the trail, which is a correct long switch. And then the shot clock is set at 35 seconds because we have a foul in the backcourt that results in a backcourt throw in. So the shot clock is set appropriately to 35 seconds. So just overall, really nice mechanics, really well handled, keeps the entire play in front of us and under control. And then we utilize proper switch mechanics and also proper shot clock rules. So overall, just a really good sequence by the crew, handled very well, mechanics and rules. Okay, on this one, let's talk about positioning and our mechanics, and also rules application relative to traveling violations. So first, we're in really good position, the whole crew, to officiate this play, especially like that the trail is working low and we stay put to officiate this competitive matchup. Now, this matchup is in the lead's primary area. However, when it comes to traveling violations, we're going to have the trail work low on this because typically the lead is worrying about contact in the upper body area, if any. In this particular case, the defense looks good, so no fouls really to worry about. So then it becomes a question of whether a traveling violation has occurred. So let's start with the rule, which is Rule 444 on page 44 of the NFHS rules book. And that talks about how to establish the pivot foot and what you can do with it once it's been established. So you see in this particular sequence, she gets the ball in the paint, takes a dribble, picks it up with the left foot on the ground and the right foot in the air. And then when we pivot after gathering the basketball to shoot, we pick up that pivot foot, which is the left foot, and it never hits the ground again, and we take the shot attempt. So this is not a traveling violation. Again, just because we cover a lot of ground or it looks ugly or anything like that doesn't necessarily mean it's a violation. We have to pick up the pivot foot and know what they can and can't do with it. Review the rule. That's going to be key. Put them off the ground if at all possible. But in this case, again, the dribble is gathered with the left foot on the ground and the right foot up. So when we turn to shoot and we put the right foot back down and then take a shot off that right foot without ever putting the left foot back on the ground, that is not a traveling violation. So try not to get fooled by these. Pick up the pivot foot and know if they can put it back down or which one was established, etc., before ruling on traveling violations. Okay, on this one, primarily talking primary coverage area here and again, philosophy piece. So on this one, we have a shot attempt. I like our positioning. I like how we work beneath the shot attempt, work beneath that matchup to see space by the center. That's really good. We see the shooter all the way up and down and make sure that she's free of foul. But then when we have an offensive rebound like this, remember that we draw a line right down the middle of the paint as far as our responsibilities are concerned because we don't have secondary defenders in this case. So that means that anything on that side of the paint is the center's responsibility. And in this case, we have the lead calling across the paint on contact that I can't really tell if it affects her shot, if at all. And the center's looking right at it and shows the pass, and then we call from across the paint. Unless this is a train wreck where we just shove a shooter to the ground or other major contact, we need to stay off of this. This is the center's play. They're looking right at it. That's why we have three officials so that we can concentrate on our primary coverage area, and we just need to trust our partner. Again, unless there's really major contact and it's contact involving a secondary defender, the lead needs to allow the center to have this play. So just keep that in mind from a primary coverage area and remember who has responsibility for what part of the floor when we have plays like this. And it would be good to discuss as a crew, just as a reminder, on who's going to be the primary ruling official on plays like this. Okay, and this one, similar theme to what we've seen on a couple of the other clips on this tape. One, primary coverage area, who's responsible for what, and then just our philosophy relative to giving free throws. So as trail, we need to work a little bit lower here and be at the 28-foot mark and then officiate this matchup. I think we're trailing this play, which makes it a little bit more difficult relative to accuracy. And again, once it gets out of our primary coverage area and it's going away from us into the leads area, we need to defer to the lead. Similar to the last play, this is right in the lead's lap. It's coming right at the lead, and we need to allow them to take it. At the very least, we need to have a patient whistle. I think it's definitely a foul. So that part is good, but I think we just need to take 1 or 2 more seconds to give that lead a chance at calling this, as they're right there and it's in their primary coverage area. And then the other piece is, again, it appears that once this dribbler gathers the basketball, she gets bumped and the ball gets deflected, and we give a end line throw in. So we should be shooting free throws here. She's gathered the basketball and then she gets body bumped from behind. This should be a two-shot foul and should be one that the lead is calling. Again, totally is a foul. Definitely good with that, but let's give one or two more ticks at least to allow the primary ruling official a chance to put air in the whistle on this one. And then again, once we've gathered the basketball and there's contact or we're about 50-50 on it, then we should be putting them at the line. Don't let the defense gain an advantage by committing a foul. This is a really interesting play sequence, and we do a really nice job with it. First of all, we were in excellent position for the free throws, especially trail at the 28-foot mark where we belong. We didn't bail out on the missed shot. The shot clock was set to 35 seconds for the shot clock, or I'm sorry, the free throw attempt rather. And then when the offensive rebound occurred, we put the shot clock to 20 and ran it down. And then we subsequently have a scramble because you see here that the shot does not hit the rim, and we don't have control here by the defense. It's kind of batted out there past half court where it's picked up, and then we have a violation. So let's go through it piece by piece. So as I said, miss free throw, offense gets it, 20 seconds, shot clock, which is running. We're in good position to view this play and officiate it. And you're going to see here that we have a try for goal that does not strike the rim. So the shot clock continues to run. And when the offense gains control again in the backcourt, the shot clock has expired. Um, Remember, we do not have team control on a try for goal. So if you look at Rule 412 on the definitions of control, when we have a shot attempt, we do not have team control. So when this ball gets batted into the backcourt, even if the offense is the first to touch prior to it going into the backcourt, and then they are the first to touch in the backcourt side of things, that is not a backcourt violation because we do not have team control. So it's not over and back. It continues to be a live ball, which is exactly how it's handled here. You see it was touched there in the offense before it goes into the backcourt, where it is uh, controlled again by the offense, and the shot clock expires, and we have a shot clock violation properly called. And then remember, we have a violation in the backcourt, so we're going to have a 20-second shot clock for the front court throw-in for the new offense, and it's going to be at the 28-foot mark, which is the closest of the 4 tick marks to the violation. So overall, this play sequence handled exceptionally well by the crew, mechanics, positioning, and then rules knowledge. Quite a number of rules involved in this play, and just calmness under pressure. This is at the end of a close game, and we were all over it. I think the only thing I would uh, say as far as being picky or doing something a little bit different, the only thing I would say is that when the shot clock got to 0, that's where it should have stayed, and we should have had a shot clock violation at that time. And what they ended up doing was resetting the shot clock. It ran 3 seconds down, and then they called the shot clock violation. So we should have put 3 seconds back on the game clock, as that ran off from the game clock when we should have had a violation. But that's the only thing I would change about this play. Otherwise, we were all over it. Mechanics, rules, positioning, and communication, and just, again, adjudicated this play exceptionally well by the crew in a very intense moment of the game. Very well done. Okay, this play ties in a couple elements that we've talked about earlier in this tape. One is our primary coverage area, who's responsible for initial rulings on plays in their area, and then uh, traveling violation rules. So I like how we're a step behind the dribbler in transition. We're in good position throughout this play. I like that we communicate with um, with our partner on this play, but a couple things that we should think about. So first, if we're going to rule on traveling violations or fouls in this play, most of the action is taking place in that free throw half circle, which, as we talked about in a previous play, that is a primary coverage area for the trail. So, and the trail's right on it. He becomes stationary, so he can rule on this. And so, lead, we should take a second or two, just an extra breath or two, to allow trail to have first crack at this, because we end up having a double whistle on this play, and there's just potential for confusion or conflicting signals when we have double whistles on a play of this nature. So lead, just take a breath or two, let trail have first crack at this, and then if for some reason the trail doesn't get involved, then you can put air in the whistle. Now, you see that when this dribbler gathers the basketball, the left foot is his pivot foot, puts his right foot down, picks up the pivot foot, which is legal, but then he puts it down prior to beginning a pass or shot. So this would be a traveling violation. The only other thing to potentially consider in this play is that help defender, does he commit a foul or not? Or do we have a held ball prior to the traveling violation? All of that would be something that the trail needs to piece together and make a decision on. And again, leads, we wouldn't want to come in with a traveling violation. Meanwhile, the trail has to come in and wipe you out on a foul or a held ball or something similar. So that's why I would say just take a breath or two and let trail rule on this one. And then if we do have a double whistle, as we do here, it's best to not make any kind of preliminary signal, communicate about what you're going to do, and then move forward from there before making any kind of signal. And then once you do get together and communicate and decide what to do, then the calling official, the trail in this case, needs to step back and make a signal about what our decision was. Are we going with a held ball? Are we going with a foul? Are we going with a traveling violation? Either one, step back from that conversation. The calling official should signal and indicate if we have a throw in or shots or whatever the case might be. So I think traveling violation is correct here, but I think we just need to slow down our mechanics and allow the primary covering official to make the initial ruling. Okay, another transition play here. Staying a step behind the dribbler as the trail in transition, and we're going to have an entry pass that gets dumped down the middle of the paint, and we're going to have a foul called by the center. So first of all, from a primary coverage perspective, remember that when the contact is involving a secondary defender, we should allow the lead the first crack at this play. So center, we should take a deep breath when it's involving a secondary defender, because the lead's going to have the best vantage point of how that defender got there or did not. In this case, I feel that the defender came across, got the ball, and legally blocked this shot. And I think the lead has the best look at it, who no calls it. And then as we're kind of transitioning down another step or two as the center, I think we get straight line on this and we're looking through the back of the offensive player and we don't have a good grasp of whether contact was made or not. So first thing is defer to the lead on secondary defender involved plays in the paint. And then secondly, if this is in fact a foul, which is what we called, and that's fine, then he has the basketball and is going to the basket. We need to give free throws here. We go with a throw-in, maybe because we're not sure about whether we should have called a foul in the first place, which I can understand. But in this case, he has gathered the basketball. He's going to the basket. We should be shooting 2 free throws here if we're going to call a foul, which is what we did. So um, slow down, allow for the primary official to have first crack at making a ruling in their primary coverage area, especially involving secondary defenders. And then finally, as we've talked about on a couple of other plays, when they've gathered that basketball and we call a foul, they need to get free throws. Do not reward the defense for committing a foul by allowing them to have a throw in on the ensuing possession. Okay, another transition play. And these kids are fast, they get down there really quick. So remember, our advice is to stop at the free throw line, extend it if you're the new lead, and just officiate the play from there, because trying to maintain pace for pace with these players is just um, impossible. They're just way too fast and athletic. So we got to get to the free throw line and stop and then officiate the play from there. And then you see that during the course of this transition, we have a traveling violation that is called by the new lead. So a couple things to consider here. First, when he gathers the basketball, the left foot is on the ground, right foot goes down, picks up the pivot foot, no problem, but then he puts it down right there prior to beginning a shot attempt. So by that look, that would be a traveling violation. Now, the other thing to consider is legal guarding position. Remember, in order to establish legal guarding position, you need to be at least initially facing your opponent with 2 feet on the ground, facing that opponent, and then you must maintain it legally, which is backwards, rising vertically in your plane, or obliquely. In this case, you see that number 20 never turns and faces his opponent, always has his back to him, and then it appears that there's some contact here prior to that left foot hitting the ground. This is really tight, but I would say in my uh, slow motion rewind several times opinion that this is a shooting foul, because prior to that left foot hitting the ground, it appears that contact is made with that defensive player who never established legal guarding position. So just a couple things to note here. Mechanically, remember in transition, if we're not going to make it as the new lead, stop at the free throw line and officiate stationary from there and then adjust. We understand the traveling rules. We've talked about that a bunch already. So then the other piece is, how do we establish legal guarding position and how do we maintain it legally? And in this case, he never establishes legal guarding position at all, and then contact appears to be made prior to a traveling violation. And so again, I would say that this falls more on the side of a shooting foul. Again, really tight, but just the things that we have to consider when we have plays like this. Okay, in this play, we have the throw in to start the second half, and look at the shot clock. It is not running, and the game clock is running. And then, very alertly, the crew picks up on the fact that the shot clock is not running, works with the table to get it fixed. Notice that 6 seconds came off the game clock, so we should be setting the shot clock to 29 seconds and then beginning the game again with a throw-in from there. So nice job by the crew of having clock awareness. We just need to get into the habit of every time that there is a whistle, every time we have a new shot clock, we need to take a peek at it and make sure it's running appropriately, that it's set to the right amount. And we do that here, and it's just very well done. And then remember, when we have a stoppage in the front court, in this case an administrative stoppage, the throw-in should be taking place at one of the 4 tick marks. So in this case, the 28-foot mark opposite the table. So just something to keep in mind, but overall, excellent clock management and awareness by the crew on this play. Okay, on this play, just a sequence or a play that is really difficult to officiate. You'll notice number 2 takes a shot attempt and hits the floor after this attempt. So there are just several factors that we need to take into account and several decisions we have to make on a play of this nature. So notice when he comes back to the ground, he makes some contact with the defender and then hits the ground. So here are the different factors we have to consider. Does number 2 take a normal shooting motion? Does he jump straight up and straight down? If he does and doesn't do any unnatural movements, etc., and lands on the defensive player's foot, the defensive player has not established legal guarding position and therefore would have committed a shooting foul. If you deem that number 2 has done an unnatural move of some kind, like sticks his leg out, trying to draw a foul, tries to kick the offensive player, you could potentially have an offensive foul. Now, in this case, I don't think it's an offensive foul. I also don't think that number 2 comes down in uh, a normal manner. I think he puts his right foot out to the side to get closer to that defensive player, perhaps in an attempt to draw a foul. So I think no call is the proper ruling on this play. I also don't think it's a flop because clearly he steps on the guy's foot and that's why he went to the ground. Now, if he just throws himself to the ground for no reason in this case, then that would be a flop, but that's not what happens here. So I think no call is proper, but we need to take a look. Does the shooter take a normal shooting motion, jump up, jump down? If he does, defensive foul. If he doesn't, then it's either a no call, or if he kicks him or displaces the defensive player in some way, that would be an offensive foul. And that would be a player control foul, and we would wipe the shot out. Or is it a flop? And again, I don't think that's the case here. I think the contact with the defensive player is why he hits the deck. But really difficult play for officials to work through. And I think the crew did a very nice job here of piecing this together and going with a no call in this particular play. But we need to be aware of those factors to consider on whether it is a defensive foul, offensive foul, no call, or flop. Okay, that will do it for training tape number 2. Couple things to consider. Primary coverage area, really trusting our partner, deferring to them, at least to have the first crack at things that take place in their particular coverage area. Um, Traveling violations, legal guarding position, and just general rules knowledge as it relates to team control, shot clocks, and throw-in placement. So a lot of different things to consider from these plays. Thought the officials did a pretty good job by and large managing through these situations, but certainly good ones to talk about as a crew as we go into more games this weekend. So keep up the good work, stay healthy and safe, and we'll talk to you next week.